A moment ago, Pastor Stockard referenced a passage that is dear to all of us. Revelation chapter 14, verse 13, John writes, "Blessed are those who die in the Lord, henceforth, thus saith the Spirit. Though they rest from their labors, yet their works do follow them." I can hardly imagine, as I thought about the last few days, I can hardly imagine a more intentional life. Can you? A stage in life when most men were going off to seek their fortunes, Mr. Geer opted to make a shrewd investment. Shortly after relocating to Florida, young wife, 3 small children. He left GTE, a good salary to work here at Providence for a salary. Teach folks like me, long division, accounting, life sciences. Longer hours for less money. Hardly a lucrative prospect at all. I suspect at the time that decision was made, there were probably some who questioned his wisdom. Nobody's questioning it today, are they? Today, it's brilliant. Amen? Decision to devote that season of his life to young people. Hardly a peculiar move, I think, to him, rather emblematic of the man. For he had, I think, an innate sense of what mattered, didn't he? When I say he lived an intentional life, I think he knew there's more. There's more to life than accumulating. On this day, it's very, very clear. He knew what he was doing. Amen. What if you'd help me here? How many of you here, either yourself sat under his teaching in some capacity, perhaps here at the church or at the school, or had a child who was a member of his class? Would you mind just standing at this time? Thank you. You may be seated. Now, there are scores of people, so many that I've talked to in the last few days, who would have loved to come. Today, I feel a responsibility to speak on behalf of the many, many people, those of you here who just stood, who was shaped by his life. Ryan, Heidi, Heather, I was thinking, I suspected the decision was made to involve me in the service. Somewhere in heaven, your dad had a good laugh. Ryan probably the least likely candidate. When I got to know him, it was an awkward, pimply-faced middle school boy. Surly, petulant, self-absorbed, ungrateful. The thought of that, I feel like maybe I bear a little responsibility today. Hard to quantify what all those years of dealing with me did to his heart. Here's the thing. He loved me then. And I knew it then. How I marveled at his patience. Kind. So as we sang a moment ago, that really was the bold declaration of his life. Just want to be like Jesus. Live like him. John chapter 13, verse 35. By this shall all men know that you're my disciples. That's how they'll learn. You have love one toward another. I was thinking about it. At a time, no doubt in his life, this involved considerable sacrifice. Drove to Greenville for my graduation. rented a tux, drove back to Greenville, stood up with me at my wedding. Luke chapter 6, Jesus teaching on selfless love. He said that God is kind to the ungrateful and evil. How that marked a good friend. I think the thing that makes him remarkable in my mind was such a wise, deliberate use of one's life for the glory of God and service of people. You saw him, all over the place, right around here. Quiet things. His influence is still realized and felt. His presence obviously most apparent to his precious wife, Mrs. Geer, 41 years. You imagine that? 41. How he loved you. How very loyal you were to him. Certainly toward his children. We've heard from him, his grandchildren. Hours and hours and hours. Talking last night. Hours. Pouring into those children. Ryan told me about those wonderful Godward discussions. Mr. Geer had an elegant novel was pouring into it. One generation praising God's works to another generation. Irreplaceable. I think just among my classmates, certainly those up here and others, that decision 30 years ago to invest in life and lives has rippled outward and is still bearing fruit in places like Shreveport, Roanoke, Memphis, Statesboro, Orlando, Lakeland, all over this area. I think ordering your life around temporal things at a time like this just sure seems hollow, doesn't it? Seems like it just doesn't make a lot of sense. Paul said, when I refer to Paul, you understand I'm talking about Paul the Apostle. He'll be Mr. Geer. I'm afraid he gave me a stern look where I call him Paul. 2 Corinthians chapter 4, verse 18. While we look not on the things that are seen, but on the things that are not seen. For the things that are seen are temporal. What is their favorite? The things which are not seen are eternal. Today, consider life where its energy, passion, creativity, love was leveraged for a larger purpose, a marvelous example. Paul has no regrets. Pastor Stockard referenced Paul's words, I have fought a good fight. I finished my course, I have kept the faith. Henceforth there is laid up for me a crown of righteousness, which the Lord, the righteous judge, shall give me in that day. Not to me only, all those who love his appearance. And I suspect that Mr. Geer would be very, very uncomfortable with this much attention. Don't you think so? Following Paul's words, Colossians chapter 3, set your affection. Look, set your affection on things above, not on things on earth. Consider how he modeled that so well for us during his life. So there aren't a lot of hollow, empty places. Think about in our class when tragedy struck. He shepherded us during those days and turned our gaze up. So I wonder if I could just do that today, following his example. Just sort of take your face in my hands and turn your gaze upward. This is no time for a wimpy theology. We need a robust, sound, doctrinal structure that we can stand on. Our immediate need is comfort. And I know on behalf of the family, they would have me thank you. It's important that we just sit down together and cry. And then we need that. We need people to come alongside us and comfort us and encourage us. That'll only get us so far. As the days pass, we're going to look for something a little more stable, aren't we? Further down the road, we're going to need a firm place to